There is something strange about the world you live in. You wake up, you work, you get paid. But the thing you're paid with has no physical form, no fixed limit, and no intrinsic value. Yet it controls where you live, what you eat, and how free you really are. Is the mystery? If money is no longer backed by gold, silver, land, or labor, why does everyone still trust it? And more importantly, who benefits when trust disappears and power takes its place? Because this isn't just a story about money changing shape. This is the story of how numbers quietly replaced gold and how authority replaced trust without asking for permission. Setting the stage when money had weight for most of human history, money was simple. It was heavy. It was scarce. And it was honest. Gold and silver were not valuable because government said so. Were valuable because they were difficult to obtain, impossible to fake, and universally desired. You couldn't argue with gold. You couldn't print it. Couldn't vote it into existence. If a ruler spent too much, the treasury ran dry. When the treasury ran dry, power collapsed. This natural limitation kept empires disciplined. Trust wasn't created by law. It was enforced by reality. But reality is inconvenient for those who want unlimited control. Origins. The first betrayal of trust, the first crack, did not come from governments. It came from banks. Gold was secure, but inconvenient. Carrying it was dangerous. Storing it required protection. So banks offered a service. Give us your gold. We'll keep it safe. In return, we'll give you a receipt. Those receipts were redeemable for real gold. At first, then something important happened. Bankers noticed something uncomfortable. Most people never came back to claim their gold. The receipts moved between hands. Trade continued. The gold stayed in the vault, and so the temptation appeared. What if banks issued more receipts than gold? As long as everyone believed the gold was there, the illusion held. This was the birth of fractional reserve banking. Money was no longer a thing. It became a promise. And promises depend on trust. The rise when promises outran reality at first, fractional banking fueled growth. More money meant more trade. More trade meant more prosperity. But this growth had a hidden flaw. Every new unit of money was now debt, not created from metal, not created from labor, created from expectation. And debt has one requirement. It must either be repaid or inflated away. As economies grew, so did dependence on credit. Wars made it worse. Wars are expensive. Gold is slow. But paper can be printed overnight. So governments borrowed, then borrowed more. And each time they did, they promised. This is temporary. Temporary became permanent. Trust began to weaken quietly. Key figures the new priests of money. As systems grew complex, something new emerged. Not kings, not generals, central bankers. They spoke in numbers. Ordinary people didn't understand. Promised stability. They managed confidence. Confidence became more important than truth. Interest rates replaced morality. Liquidity replaced responsibility. Power shifted not through force, but through mathematics. Most people didn't notice. Because nothing collapsed. Yet, the breaking point when gold was abandoned, the true breaking point arrived in the 20th century. World wars shattered budgets. Governments needed unlimited funding. Gold stood in the way. So nations began suspending gold backing temporarily. Then came 1971. The final link between money and gold was severed. From that moment on, money was no longer redeemable. Value was no longer anchored. Trust was no longer required. Money became fiat valuable because authority demanded belief. Numbers replaced gold, and power replaced trust. This was not announced as a revolution. It was presented as a technical adjustment. But everything changed. And affect what happened next, once money lost its anchor. 3 things became inevitable. 1. Infinite creation. There was no longer a natural limit. Money could be created faster than goods, faster than wages, faster than reality. When permanent debt was no longer a problem to solve. It became the engine of the system. Old debt was paid with new debt. Stability depended on expansion. 3. Centralized control. Those who controlled money creation controlled outcomes. Crises were no longer accidents. They became management tools. The fallout. A system that rewards failure in a gold-based world. Bad decisions caused collapse. Collapse removed bad leaders. In a fiat world, Bad decisions trigger bailouts collapse, is postponed. Power concentrates, banks that failed were rescued. Corporations that mismanaged were rewarded. Governments that overspent gained more authority. Losses were socialized. Profits were protected. Trust evaporated, but compliance increased, because there was no alternative. The illusion of fixes, why nothing changes. Every crisis follows the same pattern. Excess debt builds markets, destabilized panic spreads, central banks intervene, more money is created, root causes remain. Each fix requires larger intervention than the last. Each rescue weakens trust further, yet the system survives. Why? Because survival no longer depends on trust. It depends on enforcement. Modern parallels the pattern today. Look at the world now. Global debt is larger than global output. Currencies lose value yearly. Assets inflate beyond reach. People work harder, but own less. And still, the solution is always the same: more liquidity. Digital money accelerates this trend. Day to day. When money becomes code, creation becomes instant, control becomes programmable, resistance becomes measurable. This is not an accident. This is the logical outcome of removing limits. The deeper pattern history repeats. Every civilization that removed monetary discipline faced the same fate. Rome debased its currency. Trust collapsed. Control increased. Then the empire fell. Pattern is consistent. First, money is diluted, then trust erodes, then authority tightens. Finally, reset occurs. The tools change. Outcome doesn't. The realization what was actually lost gold wasn't perfect. But it did one thing extremely well. It forced honesty. You couldn't fake it forever. You couldn't promise what you couldn't deliver. When numbers replaced gold, accountability disappeared. When trust disappeared, power filled the gap. 3 clear takeaways. Takeaway 1: money without limits eventually becomes a weapon of control. Takeaway 2: debt is not a failure of the system, it is its fuel. Takeaway 3: when trust dies, authority always expands. Warning: the uncomfortable question. The question is not whether this system will change. The question is how. History shows that systems built on belief rather than truth do not collapse quietly. They reset. And resets never protect those who trusted the numbers. Call to action, the final thought: understanding money doesn't make you rich, but misunderstanding it guarantees dependence. If this video changed how you see money, like it, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes money is neutral. Because when numbers rule without limits, only awareness creates freedom. And history is watching.